What's up guys, I'm Ihna and today I'm going to show you how to create this beauty. Go! So I spent one crazy week building this acoustic wall for two important purposes: to act as a sound barrier and to add the wow factor in the studio. I've glued 968 pieces of pine wood, and for a deep and intense feeling I've chosen black paint. As you can see, my voice still has some reverb. Considering that I've covered only 50% of this wall out of 6, floor and ceiling included, this is an ongoing process because I want to make this studio as clean as possible regarding the reverb. So you're watching this video to learn from my mistakes and figure it out how to build it at least 5 times faster, I hope. So if you are interested in how to create a better acoustic in your studio or planning to add an extra touch to your home, hit the subscribe button and I will make sure you'll be well guided. Alright guys, let's get started. First of all, we have a few steps to follow here: planning, cutting, sanding, assembling, gluing, painting, and of course the surprise factor. Let's start with the plan. First of all, create a digital plan and calculate your available space, length, width, and put all the pieces together in that plan in order to estimate how much wood you have to buy. I use Photoshop for my projects and I have attached my Photoshop file down below in the description in case we use the same wood dimensions. Alright. Considering the peculiar form of the final cubes, the easiest way to count the final number is by dividing in 2. The total number of the cubes that I needed for my project was 968. Dividing in 2 means 484 big cubes. I will fade myself out for a second in order to have more space for numbers. Each big cube is 11 centimeters or 4 inch long. That means 11 centimeters times 484 big cubes equals to 5,324 centimeters. And we will divide this number into 300 centimeters. And that means 17.5 pieces of wood at 3 meters long. Regarding the wood loss, basically you lose 3 millimeters on every cut. That means 3 millimeters times 484 cuts equals 1452 millimeters for big cubes, a total of 3000 millimeters. This means one big piece of wood out of 17, which is not much at all. But I prepared at least one extra, just in case, not to waste time going at store too often and lose workflow. This is the size that I use and looks good. You must dedicate some time studying the right proportions and maybe play a little bit by mixing them and see how they look like together. These cubes are cut at 30-degree angle. If your purpose is to reduce the reverb in the room, this is the right size. If you are interested in design only, you can go at least 1-2 centimeters shorter with the same effect. And of course, you'll reduce your total cost by 20-30%. Take your miter saw and clamp to it a piece of wood around 11 centimeters from the blade in order to cut all pieces exactly the same. As a result of sawdust, place a small piece of plastic or add some screws to make sure that your wood is still square in the corner. This will save you a lot of time. Otherwise, you have to blow it every time, like I did in the first part of the project. Keeping your wood square is very important because it might affect your assembling due to an unsquare surface, as you see in my case. I use the miter saw clamp by default. If you don't have one, just use a strong clamp and make sure the saw vibration won't move your wood guideline. So be careful here. Just check now and then the big cube's length. With this wood guideline, you can cut fast and precise many pieces. Even with a small saw like mine, you can cut 2 pieces at once and you'll save at least half the time. Just after you cut all the big cubes, turn your meter saw to 30 degrees and make the second cut. That will turn into the final piece. Just like the first time, clamp a piece of wood to the saw and make a few adjustments to make sure that your final pieces are equal. As you can see here, you have to use an extra piece of wood because the blade is too close to the hand and you don't want to take any risks, right? Okay guys, let's go to sanding. After I made almost 1000 cuts, next step was to sand the inner edges to make sure that I can tie them very closely together on the wall. Please insist a bit on the front edge, you aim for a smooth surface here. The fastest way is the manual technique. Put a piece of sandpaper on a table and handle the wrap manually. Here, I would recommend to wear some gloves, cause sometimes I rubbed also my little fingers. As you can see, I used my both hands and I'm not an ambidextrous, but in a few minutes it gets easier. It's a must for almost 1000 pieces. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's not an easy process. Remember that moment when you are in your backyard and you are cutting your grass for almost 2 hours and it's a job that can be done in 20 minutes? Well, a similar situation might appear here. Considering it's a repetitive process, you must stay committed to your work. Do it fast and efficient, otherwise you'll end up just like me working a few days extra. A small tip is to set a timer, for example 2 or 3 hours of work without break would be more efficient than 8 random hours. So make sure you have everything you need not to stop your process. As a conclusion, stay consistent to your project. Alright, let's move to assembling. I was lucky to have a concrete wall to hang a big USB board, so I didn't have to worry about the weight of the 968 wooden pieces. If you have another kind of wall like plasterboard, make sure it will take the total weight. One piece is around 100 grams times 968 equals around 96 kilos. Just as an idea, means 7 big TVs of 50 inch. My USB board is 4mm thin and I would say it's okay for the project. You can go with 6 or 8mm if you want to aim for a bigger surface. I have installed 6 wall plugs of 10 cm long and around 6 concrete nails on the corners for a better grip. Gluing time was so much fun and not. Initially, I stick the cubes with normal glue and the first 2 horizontal lines were a nightmare because I had to use a lot of it and to add pressure on the cubes for at least 60 seconds. At first, I fix a long piece of wood to be sure that everything is nice and leveled. But all you have to do really is to glue perfectly every piece on the spot and you'll have no issue. Just imagine the assembling as a chess table. Also, it's good to know that some cubes might not be the same exact dimension, just ignore them and continue with your square cubes and customize them at the end. With this one, I used just 2 little drops of glue on each side and the process was 10 times faster. I chose to do it directly on the wall because I want to make sure that everything is nice, leveled and perfect. Please use plywood with a smooth surface for a better contact with the glue. From a budget perspective, I used OSB and that was a big mistake for only 30% cheaper price. Remember that sawdust from meter saw? Well, that put me in a lot of trouble because some cubes weren't perfectly square and it created some distance between pieces on assembling. Similar to sanding, it might take a while, the repetitive process. Just stay consistent with the work and do it fast. Whenever I work with wood, I'm thrilled by texture. And I had different experiences with painted wood and many times I've lost the wood rips after brush paint. But this was not the case. I chose to go with universal black spray to hit only a bit the wooden surface and still keep that natural texture. That came with a big cost because after 1 minute of spraying, everything in the room, on the floor, my desk, my cameras, my lenses, everything you can find basically in a studio was covered with a very thin foil, super hard to remove black spray. You can see it right on camera. This happened because even though I had a gas mask, I was too afraid to use 5 spray cans in a closed room, so I opened the window and that caused the spray particles to fly all around. Just remember to protect everything with a thin plastic surface, avoiding cleaning for hours and hours with diluent like I did. Please note that the corners can be painted with brush, even if it's a small one. Won't fit on the edges. The surprise factor. What do I have here? Bam! And this is not the only one. The idea of the hidden compartment came to me while I was gluing. If you want to add a secret purpose, then you must think about it from the beginning to make a hole in the wall. Or you can just use the space from the depth of the wood. In conclusion, what have we learned so far? How to make a fast plan, how to calculate quantity of wood needed, plus a bit extra, how to play with cubes design and decide depth and order, square cuts with guideline and cut fast big volumes of wood. Use both hands for sanding and stay committed to your project. Use powerful silicone if you stick them on a vertical wall. Don't use OSB boards because it doesn't have a smooth surface for silicone contact. Enjoy wood ribs and use a soft spray. I left a link in the description. If you spray inside, cover everything. Think about hidden compartment before assembling. Alright guys, it was a real pleasure. I cannot wait to receive your feedback, and please tell me how you think I can improve my next acoustic wall. Every idea, good or bad, helps the progress. In my next video, I will speak about how to create the perfect light for this bad boy. Have fun!